Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I apologize because I have some issues with my camera and my camera is off today. My name is Simone Ferreira. I'm an EducationUSA advisor at EducationUSA PUC, Rio de Janeiro. And it's a pleasure to be here today with you. And we have in celebration of the International Education Week, we have the representatives. We have Hannah King, the representative from Franklin Marshall College, and also an alumni, Sofia Neto, talking about tips on applying to Franklin Marshall College, and they will be sharing important information with you. So we no further ado, I want to say welcome to everyone, Hannah, Sofia, and all the students here, and also EducationUSA advisors. Thank you for coming. And Hannah and Sofia, the floor is yours. I'm going to mute my mic, but I'm going to be around.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so on behalf of Franklin and Marshall College, Sofia and I welcome you. So I figured I will start with introductions of me and Sofia, and then we'll get into a little bit of a presentation to talk about applying and admissions in general, financial aid information, things like that. And then, of course, we want to leave plenty of time to ask questions and answer any questions that you may have, especially given that we do have a current student here who will be an excellent resource to hear from. So again, my name is Hannah Kim. I am the Associate Director of International Admissions here at Franklin and Marshall College. So I have a background in higher education, but also international education more broadly. So I actually grew up kind of in the area here of Franklin and Marshall College in Pennsylvania in the United States. However, I lived over in South Korea for a long time as well, where I was actually teaching myself, fell in love with education, international education. And since being back in the United States, I've worked for a couple of different universities and now have found myself full circle back at Franklin and Marshall in Lancaster. So it's really nice. But Sofia, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Yes, thank you, Hannah. My name is Sofia. I'm from Belo Horizonte in Minas Gerais. I'm a sophomore now, soon to be a junior. I'm still not sure how that happened, but it's my first year in the US, first year at Franklin Marshall College because of the pandemic. So although I'm a sophomore, I still feel like a freshman. So be comfortable with asking me many questions about campus life, because everything is really fresh in my mind. And also, I can speak in Portuguese if you guys would prefer that. I think it would make people more comfortable. So during the lecture, our presentation, I'm going to be speaking Portuguese.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sophia. So hopefully you guys can see my presentation here, and I am going to begin our presentation by talking kind of generally about what it means to be a liberal arts college. So that's kind of where I always recommend students start looking when they are starting their college search process, their college application process, is kind of understanding what the different types of institutions are in the United States. So Franklin and Marshall does fall under the umbrella of a liberal arts college. We are a 4-year undergraduate college only, so we do not have any graduate programs, but there's a couple of key characteristics that make up a liberal arts education, and those are very important to know, and we find value in them for a lot of reasons. So one of the most important things, which I'll talk about why this matters when you're applying, but we have a very holistic view to education here. So everything is connected, and we believe that students become very well-rounded students when they have exposure and experiences in a lot of different fields of study in a lot of different areas. I'm sure Sophia can talk about this more later, but another key characteristic are the small class sizes, and specifically how those will relate to very close personal relationships with your professors. Studies and research has shown time and time again that the more one-on-one or small group experiences that you have in your education, the more successful students are and the more personalized their education becomes. They really feel like their education is kind of tailor-made towards them and towards what they want to do. So that's a key characteristic of not only Franklin and Marshall, but all liberal arts colleges. At specifically F&M, you probably won't have a class size of bigger than maybe 20 students. Like maybe you'll have a class or two that's a little bit bigger, but it is certainly not going to be a large lecture class of like 200 to 300 students where you can kind of sit in the back and fall asleep and not participate and not really say anything. This is a very different experience than that. And you can kind of see in our picture here, this is a typical class size, right? So it's very small and close-knit, and your voice is going to be heard. You're going to be able to speak your mind, give your opinions, and most importantly, ask questions. So you really make sure that you're understanding the material, and the professors make sure that you're understanding the material. So we do have about a 9-to-1 student to faculty ratio. And like I said, very close personal relationships. I had a student the other day tell me that she dog sits for her professors sometimes when they go out of town. Like that's the level of close knit that we're talking about here. And again, I'm sure Sophia can speak to that a little bit more. Another key characteristic of a liberal arts college is the idea that you don't even need to declare your major until the second semester of your sophomore year. We do have about 62 different fields of study to choose from when you do declare your major, but a lot of our students double major. A lot of them will major with a minor. We even have something called a special studies major here, where you can essentially like build your own major around like 3 or even 4 different fields of study that you're interested in. So again, it's all about personalization. I always love to tell the story that when I went to school, I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be an English major because I love reading and I loved literature. And I did end up doing that. But I took one communications course my freshman year, something I never thought I had an interest in. And I completely fell in love with it and ended up picking up a double major in something, totally unique that I wasn't expecting. That's really something special that you can only find at a liberal arts school. Now, in the application process, because of that, when you apply, you will not be applying to a specific program. So you're not applying to computer science, you're not applying to psychology, you're not applying to business. You're really just applying to the school, and then we give you the freedom and flexibility to experiment and decide what you want to do. And again, I'll let Sophia kind of speak to that a little bit more. So another question that, for obvious reasons, we often get from international students is, what types of resources and support are available to international students? So in general, if you take a look at what our campus population looks like here at F&M, we actually have the 5th highest enrollment of international students among all baccalaureate colleges in the entire United States. For a school of only about 2,300 to 2,400 students total, that's really incredible. We really, really place an emphasis on supporting people of all different types of backgrounds and cultures. Incoming class will look anywhere from like 16 to 19% as international students, which again is a very high percentage. So we do have about 48 different countries that are represented here. Obviously, Sophia said she's from Brazil. We have students from all over though, Europe, Africa, Asia, South America, a little bit of everything. And part of this global kind of experience are also our study abroad programs. So that's another thing that I recommend looking into when you're trying to choose a college. don't just look at the courses or the programs that they offer in terms of your major. There's so much else that you can do and participate in that will kind of create this very unique experience for you. Because we have so many international students and because we put such an importance on this global experience, about 50% of our students do actually end up studying abroad. And that could be even in like a summer program if fitting it into your schedule is something you're ever worried about. We do also offer scholarships for specific programs that students can apply for as well once they are here for specific study abroad programs. So lots of different opportunities there. I believe we've sent students to about 200 different pre-approved programs around the world. And if there's somewhere we haven't sent students and you want to go there, our wonderful International Student Services office will make it happen. They will find a way to get you wherever you want to go. So again, when I get the question of what does the F&M student look like, this I think is important to think about if you are thinking about applying to F&M or applying to, whatever school it may be. Think about, can you see yourself there? Especially as an international student who maybe you don't have the opportunity to actually visit campus in person before applying. That often happens, right? So do a lot of research, come to these types of webinars and info sessions so that you can really get a sense of, am I the right type of student? Will I be happy with the campus life here? And our students like to do a lot. They're very active students. On average, they participate in anywhere from 3 to 5 different activities at a time. We have over 100 different student-run clubs and organizations here. That's really great because they're student-run, which means there's even leadership opportunities within the different clubs and organizations as well. But there's other opportunities. There's internship opportunities. There are job opportunities for international students on campus as well. There's so many different things you can do here. We do offer athletics, both varsity and like intramural, something a little bit less formal. So lots of different things that you can do, but we are definitely not a slow campus. We are a fast campus. We always have things going on, and there's always different opportunities for students to participate in. If you're hearing that and you're like, whoa, that sounds like way too much for me, that's not for me, that's why you do that research ahead of time. But if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, that makes sense, that gives me the opportunity to try lots of new things, then you're gonna know that that's a place you can fit in. So definitely do your research on whatever schools you're applying to. Don't just find a fee waiver and try to apply to any and every school that you can. Like really craft your applications around what you think will be the best fit for you. Okay, so maybe I'll let Sophia talk a little bit about this, but I know, like she said, she was not actually on campus during her freshman year because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but we are very well known for this college house system. And it's another way that I think it's especially important for international students. It creates this kind of community where you already from day one, like have this community to associate with, have these people that you have something in common with. So the way our college house system works, and this is a little bit cheesy, but the best way that people usually describe it is to think of Harry Potter. So in Harry Potter, you get sorted into your different house systems like Gryffindor and Slytherin. Well, we have houses here as well. We have 5 different college houses. And just like in Harry Potter, once you are in this house, you are always a part of this house. So it's more than just a physical place that you're living during your freshman year. It's a community that you can associate with. You plan social activities together. They have their own events. They even have their own government systems. So like one of them has a presidency, one of them has a monarchy, things like that. So there's leadership opportunities within those, but it's just, again, just a community for you to be a part of all 4 years that you are here. So Sophia didn't have the opportunity to do this, but in your freshman year, you typically all live together. And then after your freshman year, there's lots of other like campus housing options, both on campus and then in your junior and senior year off campus. But it's these types of like unique little quirky systems and things that different colleges have going on that I think give a college campus a little bit of vibrancy and personality behind them. Students become very, very passionate about their college house system and what house they are a part of, something they're very proud of. So that's definitely something a little bit unique that we do that I can talk more about if anyone has further questions. Lancaster City, another key thing that I think everyone should do when applying to a school, research the location. Every city, every country, every small town, whatever it may be, they're all going to have a different feel to not only their immediate campus, but the surrounding areas as well. So Lancaster City, we are not New York City. We are not that large. We're a small city. There's some benefits to that. So it means that it's walkable. You don't have to always take public transportation. You don't need a car, which often, many of our international students don't have cars. You can still get around. But what I like about Lancaster personally growing up in this area is that we are actually, if you look at like a map of the East Coast of the United States, we kind of sit in this big metropolitan hub. So above us, we are just a couple hours away from Philadelphia and from New York City. And then down below, we have Baltimore and Washington, D.C. So even though Lancaster itself isn't a huge city, it's still a small city. And then you have these even bigger metropolitans around you. If you want to do a day trip into like New York City or something like that, it's very doable. So that's something that I've always loved about growing up here. But the city of Lancaster itself too, there's so much going on here. And this is not true for every city, which is why doing your research is important. But Lancaster communities, they love F&M students. They're always looking for F&M students to help participate in research, internships, job opportunities, community service opportunities. Something that often surprises people about Lancaster is we actually are like the refugee capital of the United States. We actually have more refugees per capita than any other city in the entire country. And some obvious benefits to that are the diversity, pretty much any type of food or restaurant you could possibly imagine you can find here, which is really nice. It's definitely a very artsy, foodie kind of small town. It's really nice. And again, like if Sophia has any personal anecdotes about going into the city, by all means, but it's definitely a very, very interesting place to live that our students really love. So I just have a couple of final things to touch on before I get into specific application and financial aid information. And I really want to touch on what we call our Office of Student and Postgraduate Development. We call it OSPGOD because it's a very long name, so no one will look at you funny if you call it OSPGOD. But this is essentially our career center. Now, every school has a career center, right? Not every student uses their career center until often their senior year, maybe their junior year, when they're starting to think about life beyond college and they're starting to think about, like, I need a job. How do I do that? Our OSPGOD office actually has an 85% engagement rate for students across all 4 years. And if you think about that, that's really incredible because it means over 80% of even freshman students who have just arrived on campus are already thinking about career planning programs and opportunities. The intention is is this degree worth it? You know, are you going to get a job? Are you going to get graduate school placement, whatever it is you want to do after graduation? And so our students are actively thinking about that early and often. They do lots of different types of programming. So your traditional like internship fairs and career fairs and things like that, resume help, cover letter help, but they do some kind of non-traditional stuff too. So they have like an etiquette class that they'll do for students sometimes. They even have like a closet full of wardrobe in their office where if you need professional clothing for like a job interview or something like that, you can actually go and borrow clothes from them. Just a lot of kind of unique little things that students can participate in. I believe they do over 200 different programs throughout the year. So just these extra levels of engagement. When you come to a school like F&M, again, it's not just your academics, which are important, obviously, and the main reason that you're here, but there's so many other ways to get involved beyond that. So make sure that you're researching, make sure that you know, like, this is what my daily life is going to look like here. And I do think that this top statistic is very important. I think that engagement rate that I was just referring to is a direct testament to like why this number is so high. So 94% of our students land either jobs or graduate school placement within 6 months of graduating from F&M. And again, that's because our students are thinking about career planning early. Those are the types of numbers that you want to see, that your parents want to see, to make sure, again, that your investment into your education is worthwhile. So going into very important like financial aid and application information. I will definitely let Sophia talk about her process for like applying for financial aid and whether that played a decision in, you know, deciding to come here. But we do offer 100% of institutionally determined need-based financial aid. So we don't actually offer merit-based scholarships. Again, do your research, know the difference. You know, scholarships and things that are merit-based or academic-based, those are reliant on grades. Need-based financial aid is reliant on household income. So how much can your family afford? How much do you need to be able to afford tuition here? And for us, the answer is we give you 100% of what you need. So essentially, when you apply, you need to fill out either one of two documents. So the first one is your CSS profile. That's just through College Board. However, that actually does cost money. And so a lot of our students ask if we have a fee waiver for that. The answer is no, but that's just because we actually have a free form. It's our International Student Financial Aid application, which is available on our website as well. That does not cost any money, and we can use that as a substitute to your CSS profile. That will basically tell us, like, this is how much money my family can afford. And again, if you are accepted to F&M, we will give you 100% of what's left to cover the rest of total cost of attendance. Now that's important too. Some colleges will word that differently. Some will say it'll just cover tuition, and then you still have room and board, you still have the cost of textbooks, medical insurance, like things like that that you don't want to forget about when you're kind of doing the planning for your financial packages. But here at F&M, it does cover total cost of attendance. So that includes tuition, room and board, and additional fees like textbooks and even medical insurance. So all of that is covered. It could look a couple of different ways. So it could include an on-campus job like Sophia has, where you can actually work on campus and it's just like a real job. You get a paycheck that goes directly into your pocket and you decide with your family how you're going to use that. If that's going to go back towards tuition or if that's going to go to pizza money or whatever it may be, that's really your choice. So yeah, just understanding all of the different terms that are involved around financial aid. It's not as simple as, do we give scholarships or do we give financial aid? Yes or no. Well, what does that mean? What does that actually look like? And what is actually being covered is very important to educate yourself on and make sure that your family knows the difference. So about 60% of our students do ask for and receive financial aid, and we do award over $60 million in aid each year. So it is a substantial amount, which is the reason why we don't offer merit-based scholarships. However, I mentioned when you are here, there are sometimes additional funding that you can get for specific opportunities, like research opportunities sometimes. I mentioned study abroad. There's a couple of different scholarships there to help cover the cost of some programs. So this is purely for an acceptance, standpoint. Finally, if you are looking at our application deadlines, we accept Common App and we accept Coalition App. We are SAT optional. So if you want to submit SATs, that's fine. We will use them. But if you do not, that is totally fine too. We do not look at them. That will not hurt you if you do not submit them. Now, for international students whose first language is not English, or if you have not had all your classes in high school primarily taught in English for at least 3 years, then you need to submit an English proficiency score. Now, the pandemic made the conversation around, all kinds of testing, all kinds of standardized testing, an important conversation. So it's important to know that we do accept Duolingo. I know that especially during the pandemic was the most accessible test for a lot of people. But we also accept TOEFL, we also accept IELTS. It's whatever is convenient for you, but please, if you are eligible for a waiver of your English, just email us and let us know, and we can waive those if all of your classes are already in English anyways. But Duolingo is completely fine. Any of the at-home tests are completely acceptable. We do offer Duolingo fee waivers as well. Our only requirement is that you have to first submit an application because we do have a limited number of Duolingo fee waivers that we can offer. And then our first ED deadline, our first early decision deadline has already passed. It was November 15th, but we do have a second early decision deadline, which is the same as our regular decision in that they're both January 15th. Now, in case you don't know the difference between early decision and regular decision, just remember that early decision is a binding agreement. So you can only apply early decision to one school. And if you decide that it's us and you are accepted, it means you are committed to coming here. The benefit of that is that it does give you a little bit of an edge in the application process. And it also, because it shows you that shows us that you're very serious about coming here, we take that very seriously. We also have a 30-day guarantee of admission decision after the ED deadline if you apply ED as well. However, regular decision is completely fine too. Just make sure that you get your application and your materials to us by January 15th. Interviews are the final thing that I will mention here before I go to Sophia. So 2 different types of interviews that we actually offer here. One is just your standard interview with an admissions representative. However, the one that I personally recommend, we offer interviews with current international students that actually work here in our admissions office. That is a great way. I mean, for obvious reasons, this is why we have Sophia here today. For you guys to hear from current students, that's really the best way to get this kind of broad understanding of what your life is going to be like here, what types of resources and support are available to you. So I highly, highly encourage reaching out to a current student, either through email or, through something like a formal interview to kind of get a student perspective on everything. So the last thing that I will say is, we look for people who are genuine. We look for authenticity in your applications. Don't try to be something that you're not. Just tell us, this is what I'm genuinely interested in. These are where my strengths are. This is why I think I would be a good fit for F&M. And don't worry about all of the pandemic related stuff. We know what everyone's been going through, from the testing restrictions to the virtual classes. We'll be able to see that, and we take that all into consideration. So for everyone who's thinking about applications this year, like, try not to stress, take a deep breath, and just remember that if you are genuine in your applications, we will be able to see that. All right, so Sophia, most importantly, if anyone has any questions, please type in the chat or turn your microphone on, raise your hand, anything like that, to make sure that we can answer all of them. But for Sophia, I kind of just want you to start by generally talking about, how did you hear about F&M for the first time? Why did you decide to apply here? Like, what was your entire college application process like? And then why did you ultimately make the decision to attend F&M?
Okay, I'm going to answer in português. I hope that's okay. Então, eu participei de um programa preparatório também para minha candidatura nos Estados Unidos. E foi esse programa que me falou de F&M. A gente tem uma rede muito grande, como vários programas têm. E tem um aluno do programa que ele se formou em F&M em 2016, se eu não me engano. Então, me indicaram e eu dei uma olhada no site, como a Hannah falou, é muito importante pesquisar, porque não é todo mundo que tem um fit de estudar numa escola pequena, como é o caso de F&M. F&M não é uma escola tão grande, mas para mim era ótimo, porque eu vim de uma escola pequena, em tese, e eu quis ter essa conexão muito próxima, assim, com os meus professores. Então, para mim, isso foi muito importante no processo. Eu olhei os majors, olhei os clubes, porque eu tinha muitas atividades extracurriculares na minha escola que eu não ia ter condição de continuar, mas que eu queria continuar fazendo alguma coisa, sabe? Não só focar no estudo, porque eu sei como é que isso é importante. Então, eu olhei as atividades curriculares, olhei os majors, dei uma olhada nas aulas, dos professores, e eu descobri que era, assim, que para mim realmente era o melhor lugar, por assim dizer. E eu gostei muito da localização, então eu decidi aplicar. E como a Hannah falou, uma das partes mais importantes para mim foi a entrevista, porque eu tive a oportunidade de conversar com uma aluna internacional na época, e ela me contou muitas coisas assim de F&M que eu só fiquei cada vez mais interessada, sabe? Então, realmente foi basicamente desse jeito. Eu descobri por conta do prep, mas aí eu fui dar uma olhada no site, eu cavuquei o site inteiro, que é isso que todo mundo que tá aplicando devia fazer, e eu vi que era um lugar perfeito para eu aplicar, então eu decidi só mandar meu application para ver.
I apologize in advance, but I do not speak Portuguese, so I'll do my best. Yeah, it looks like Anna, you have a question. Do you want to go ahead and ask?
Yes, hi guys, good afternoon. Thank you for all that information, it helped a lot. My question is about the English proficiency test, about the TOEFL IBT, specifically, and what is the overall score that the university accepts?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, I will say we actually don't have a cutoff line. Some schools do. Some schools will say if you get below this score, you are automatically not admissible to the school. Because we have a holistic approach to our admissions process, because again, that's our mission and philosophy for our education once you're here, there is no cutoff line. A kind of mid-range would be around the 100 for a TOEFL IBT composite score. Just remember, if it is lower than that, you are not automatically disqualified from admission. We look at everything from obviously your transcripts to your recommendations, your personal statement, interviews, general interaction with the college. There's a lot that goes into the admissions procedures in general. So I would say a 100 or higher is definitely a very, very strong score. But if you are lower than 100, that's okay too. Definitely still submit what you have and we'll take everything into consideration.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Anna, no problem. And then I see there's a question here, but are there any graduate scholarships? No, so unfortunately, we only offer, we're only an undergraduate school, so we don't offer graduate programs here. However, we do have different partnerships with various schools depending on certain programs. They're not necessarily scholarships that are involved, but they are like co-op programs that we have. So our engineering is one, for example, which is like a 3+2 program where you can basically come out with 2 different degrees. The second one being your engineering degree at a partnering school that we have, but no graduate specific scholarships. And then Carlos, I see you have your hand up as well.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm writing my personal statement, and I would like to know, in Collision app, the recommendation is up to 650 words, but my personal statement is actually 700 words. I would like to know if it's a problem.
It's not a problem. Like I said, like maybe for some schools, but you know, I come from a background of being an English major and a writer, and I am all for students wanting to tell me as much as possible. Yeah, don't send me like a 30-page essay. That would maybe be a problem. But no, the difference of 50 words is not going to upset me by any means. You can definitely submit something with 700 words, and I will read all of it. I will read every word because I find that very important. Everything you guys give us, even if it's supplementary, whether it's, you know, an art portfolio, you know, multiple essays. Sometimes I've had students want to do multiple interviews, like whatever it may be, we'll use it. So yeah, 700 words is completely fine. You can go ahead and submit that.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, Carlos. Great question.
Hello.
Hi.
I'd like to ask about the job opportunities on campus and how they relate with the aid the college offer. Because I know you already said about it, but I'm more interested in that.
Yeah, so I'll give kind of a general overview, and then I'll actually let Sophia go into details, maybe in English this time, Sophia, just because it was asked in English, and make sure that you kind of talk about what your experience of getting the job that you have on campus was. So if you are applying and you receive financial aid, we actually offer a job on campus as part of your financial aid package. There's, because of your visa, if you're on an F1 visa, there's a limited number of hours per week that you're allowed to work. That's just a federal regulation. But there are jobs available in many, many different departments across campus. So all different departments have, you know, various budgets to allow student workers. So our budget here in the admissions office might not be the same for the number of student workers that they can hire in like the library, say, for example. But there are jobs that are available all across campus. So Sophia, if you want to go ahead and kind of explain how you even like got to this job, how you first heard about it, and what that process was like.
Yes, of course. So I work for the admissions office, as Hannah said, and I was contacted actually by someone in the admissions office to come and work with them because our job is mainly to contact prospective students. So being an international student, contacting international students, it's amazing because you're basically showing them how international the community is and showing them why they should apply in a certain way. And it's really good to have this personal interaction. It makes everything looks very personal. So that's really great as a job for international students because it's basically you giving back to the international community in a certain way. And also, as Hannah said, you have a certain amount of hours. So the international admissions office, they do have a certain amount. I have 2 jobs. Actually, I work also in the government department. So I have 2 different jobs and that they have 2 different amount of hours that I can work. But together they can't be over 15 hours a week. So you also gotta have in mind that, for example, if you're planning to use that money to cover your expenses while in the US, because that's something international students always worry about because you got here and you realize that the currency is different, that everything is different, and you you gotta have in mind that you're also gonna need money for personal expenses. So that's why a campus job is ideal for international students, and it's also part of financial aid. So you gotta have in mind that you can't go over 15 hours, and there mainly campus jobs are ideal for us because we don't have to like be traveling around the city to work, and it's also a great opportunity for you to meet more people in the department. For example, in the government department, I got to meet a lot of the professors. I haven't taken classes with many of them, but I know that at a certain point with what I want to do, which is government, I certainly will. So that's a great way of making contacts and also getting money because um, we gotta buy textbooks, we gotta buy things for school, and also to have some fun around in Lancaster, which is a great city. So that's why it's ideal to have a campus job, and not all jobs on campus, of course, they give a priority for students that are on financial aid, but not all of them are restricted for students on financial aid. So if you don't need financial aid, but you still like the opportunity to work, to gain the experience, to get the money, you can also work on campus. So that's a really good opportunity.
Great, thank you. So there are also scholarships that the basic academic needs are, you know, fill up without the need of a job as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, so the financial aid package, the way the financial aid package works here is that it does cover some of your other fees and costs. It's not just tuition that it's covering if you're eligible for financial aid. So a job is just one example, but medical insurance is something that students have to buy here, and they're guaranteed medical insurance if they need it. But again, sometimes financial aid will cover that. So there's a lot of different things. I think Sophia touched on something really important too, which is that if you're not asking for financial aid, you can still get a job on campus. You do not need to be asking for financial aid or have it a part of your package to get a job. You can just get one because you want to. The other thing, you know, Sophia was reached out to by our admissions office to help with our international students, but she also works in her government office as well. That's a great way. Once you're here and you start making natural connections with different departments and groups of people, these types of opportunities could be open to you. So really quickly, Sophia, I want you to touch a little bit on research, because that's something we haven't talked about yet. And that's something that's really important to a lot of our students here. We are a small school. And so a lot of students may think that research is not that important to us, or not something we put an emphasis on, and that could not be further from the truth. Our students find research opportunities to be sometimes the most important reason that they come here, because it's something you can participate in all the way from freshman year. That may not be true at a bigger school where you may have to wait until junior or even senior year, be put on a wait list to get in for these research opportunities. So Sophia, because I know you've done some research, do you want to talk about your experiences with that?
Yes, and I'm going to keep answering in English. I think that's easier also for Hannah to understand and ask follow-up questions. But I also thought about that when I was applying to F&M, because it's such a small school, and also it's a liberal arts. Some people have a tendency of thinking, oh, it's a liberal arts school. It's not a research school, so it's not going to have a lot of research opportunities. And that couldn't be far away from the truth, because we have a lot of students that work with research. We had a research fair some weeks ago, and there were a lot of projects in a lot of different fields. So I want to major in government, as I said. It's basically political science, in case some of you don't know the term. And I was a Model UN kid for a long time, so I did a lot of Model UN. And I had a class with a professor about international politics, which was a topic that really interested me. And I really liked what she was teaching, and I heard that she had I saw on her website that she had a research project about the United Nations Security Council. And I have a lot of experience in that field. So because I did a lot of Modern, but I thought it was interesting. So I basically reached out to her, and I said to her, I'm really interested in working with you. I'm really interested in this research. Do you need any assistance? Of course, that research opportunities, sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're not. But for me, what mattered most was the experience. So I reached out to her and I was like, do you need any help? Because I can help. I am available. I really want to join you. And I explained to her, I have this many years with Model UN. I went to Harvard Model UN with my school. I know the Security Council. I went to the UN and things like that, just to make sure that she got that I was interested and that I had experience with this subject and why it mattered to me to do that research. Because sometimes it's like you gotta find something that you're passionate about also, because since it's not paid, it can get a little bit too much with school and all the extracurriculars activities. So definitely find professors that you like and that the subject interests you, which was my case. So I'm still doing research with her, and it's amazing because, as we said, the school is so small that it's so easy to really be closer to our professors, and that's what happened to me with my research advisor. I'm taking her class again, not the same class but a different subject, and that's how you can see that I really like how she teaches. And that was during the Zoom period of the school, so it's kind of hard to really engage in the classes because it was online. But now that it's in person, it's completely different, and I still love her classes. It's really amazing, and the research is just really good because I can work in the government department doing my research while I'm working and also in my free time. So I gain a lot of knowledge how to get reports, for example, from the UN, to really search um, in the areas that no one really does to get information, and also to manage data, which is something really important. And those things I would learn probably, yes, but I got to learn earlier than my other classmates, I think, because I got to the opportunity to be doing research. So that was really important for me. And it's not only in the humanities or the social sciences. There are some really interesting researchers in chemistry, for example. I remember seeing some researchers in astronomy. So it's a lot of fields. It's not because FNM is a liberal arts college that you're not going to have programs in the STEM fields. So if you're interested in STEM, definitely look into the professors. Their professors are always researching something. That is really, really nice. That is what I like in being closer to them, because you're always gonna hear what they're doing. So definitely, if you're interested in research, FNM has a lot of resources for that. We even have a fellowship right now that is going on, which is basically like, it's a fellowship that is going to give funds to students so they can have their own research projects, and they need to have an advisor, which is a professor in the school. So also, again, the closer relationships that we have, they're really good for those opportunities as well. So FNM has a lot of opportunities with professors and also with funds that they can help in your research. So we give a lot of attention to that as well. So that's very important.
Awesome. Yeah. And just for context, when Sophia says a lot of students participate in research, that's about 2/3 of our students who choose to participate in research. This is not something that you're forced to do. This is really something, you learn the skills for it very early on, but it's something that students really get excited about. And 40% of our professors' published articles are actually co-authored by our own students here. So a lot of students do actually end up leaving FNM with a published title under their belt already, which is really incredible to be able to say that. So are there any other questions you can ask in English or in Portuguese for Sophia? But I want to make sure that we're getting to what you guys want to know about as well, not just what we have to say. So feel free to type in the chat. You can turn your mic on if you want, or camera, whatever you're comfortable with. How about while we give it some time just to see, Sophia, why don't you talk about what has been your favorite class so far? So we talked about research a little bit, but what has been your favorite class, or the one that has kind of stuck out the most to you during your FNM experience?
I really have many, I guess. I think we touched this, but just another thing that because I know the Brazilian universities they require you to make a decision before you enter them. So one of my favorite things about FNM is that you don't need to make that decision. You only make it at the end of your sophomore year. So for me, I'm taking a lot of different classes right now. So I have classes in the classics department, which is about Greek mythology. I have Arabic classes, which is interesting to say the least. And I have archaeology, which I would say it's my favorite class. It is right now at least because it's something different from what I've been doing. As I said, government major, I have been doing a lot of politics things, a lot of classes. And then this year, since I kind of knew I was going to be here, I thought it would be nice to take different classes to see what really my major would be. So I decided to take intro to archaeology, and it's completely different from what I taken before because I'm used to a lot of theory, a lot of readings, and that's true. You're gonna have to read a lot in the social sciences, but for archaeology, you also have a lot of science. So it's very interesting to see, like, to measure, for example, some skulls to see how they fit in the timeline of human evolution and things like that. And also the professors they have, like, they do some field work especially in archaeology, and they're always telling the experiences. And my professor, he even says that he has an opportunity during the summer if students want to join him in Belize, I guess, to do some archaeology field work. So that was impressive to see how you can actually begin to do that kind of stuff, and also that you're working with people that actually do those things that work with that. And for me that's just really exciting. And also I think that's one of my largest classes, I think, and it's in a different setting that I'm used to. So I think that's why it's my favorite, because it's really different from what I've been doing. And that's the magic, I think, about a liberal arts college, because you can really explore a lot of fields.
Yeah, I completely agree. I always like to say when I was a college student, I was so nervous about science classes because I thought I was bad at science. I don't know if I just didn't have the right teachers in school growing up, but I put off my science classes when I was in college because I was so nervous about taking them. And I ended up taking two different ones. One was anthropology and one was astronomy. And similar to Sophia, I always say those ended up being two of my favorite classes that I ever took because it was so different than what I was doing in my majors. And I ended up really loving it. And those are some of the most memorable experiences I had, attending a liberal arts school. So yeah, that's why we definitely encourage students to continue experimenting with different things. Once you declare your major, it's not like you can you're only taking those classes. Sophia's not going to only be taking government classes for the rest of her years here. She can still take different electives and still experiment and try different thso that's definitely, like you said, one of the really wonderful things about a liberal arts education. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left, so I want to make sure we're kind of covering everything. So Sophia, if you could give some advice, you kind of touched on being familiar with, the Brazilian school system, for example. If you could give any advice as a student who went through this process and applying to FNM specifically, but also just applying to colleges in the United States, what do you wish you had been told when you were a student that you think would be helpful for students to hear now?
Yes, I think that's very important. And I would say that interviews are, sorry, that was Portuguese. Interviews are really the biggest part in in an application, I guess, because some schools they don't require an interview. Interviews are recommended, and that's super valid. Some schools they do require an interview, so you're gonna have an interview anyways. But if you have the option of having an interview, do not discard that. Just really try to have an interview, because it gives the school, I think, a chance to get to know you more personally and to really get to know who you are, because they're gonna meet you, and you can also explore different things that are maybe not in your application because you didn't have any way to put it in. And we know that applications in the US, they try to be as holistic as possible, but we all know that it's impossible to cover 100% of your life. So it gives you the opportunity to really try to show who you are and also ask questions. It's very important to ask questions to your interviewer, things that are not in the website that you're not gonna find, things that you're genuinely curious about. And I remember I had a set of questions that I would practice answering because that's important to be prepared. But also I had a set of questions that I really wanted to ask people because um, they're going to be the people that you are going to be able to ask and also to get to know more about the school because they study there or they work there, so they're going to be able to really help you with that. And I think it's also great because it demonstrates that you have an interest for that school specifically, and also for the schools that you're interviewing in general. So interviews definitely, and also about the personal statement, as Hannah said, schools they are looking for the best fits for them, for their schools. So you gotta be honest about who you are. You're not gonna you don't want to end up in a school that you don't like. That is the main thing, I guess, that you gotta know yourself and you gotta know which schools you should apply. Because I have a lot of friends that they're like, oh my gosh, I should have gone to a school in California because this is so cold. I can't take the cold, and it's only about the cold. So yeah, you gotta know if you want to go to a sunny state or to a state that is very cold, like FNM is starting to be cold, right? So a lot of students, especially from Brazil, we tend to suffer with that. So you gotta know yourself, know your limits, because you already have a lot of things in your head, like studying, academics, extracurriculars. You do not want to be worried about the cold. So if you don't like it, you should look for schools that you truly like, and also make your personal statement really about who you are. Really try to show the schools, because many schools they don't have other questions, you only submit your personal statement. So I would say that the personal statement is the most important document. And also if you're about financial aid, FNM is great because we have two different ways that you can send financial aid. And I do know that the CSS profile is really stressful to fill. I remember spending a lot of weekends with my parents because we were trying to figure out what things meant, and things to put. So definitely save some time for financial aid documents. And I think those are the things that I would say the most, I guess. It's been a few if it's been a year since, like 2 years since I applied, so I might be not updated on things. But definitely show who you are, get interviews, choose schools, we make smart decisions about schools, and yeah, just don't forget about financial aid. It's really important.
Yeah, no, that all made total sense, Sophia. Thank you so much. Very valuable information. We're pretty much at the end here. I see really quickly there's a question about people who are already in undergraduate courses. We do accept transfer students, and so if that's something you're interested in, most importantly for everyone, I am going to just quickly put my email in the chat. Sophia, if you want to do the same, you are welcome to. Like I said, Sophia is one of our student workers in our admissions office, so she is more than qualified to answer any questions that you have over email as well. But you are welcome to email either of us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Simone, for having us as well.
Thank you, Hannah.
EducationUSA, this was wonderful. I hope we were able to answer all of your questions.
Thank you, Hannah and Sophia. Very good session, very interactive. Students also brought wonderful questions, and we could notice how passionate you both are. So you really enjoy your work, Hannah, and also really enjoy the university, Sophia, your experience as a student. You really share valuable information to everyone. And thank you, everyone, for being here. And please take a look at our agenda. We will have also other webinars during November in celebration of the International Education Week. Tomorrow, you also will have another webinar. So that's it. Have fun, and thank you again. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sophia, Hannah, and everyone else.
Thank you. Bye-bye.